At the beginning of the drama, a school is shown that is one of the top schools in China. The school has 2 campuses, North Campus and South Campus. The students in the North Campus focus entirely on studies, while the South Campus students focus on sports. At one point, a conflict between the 2 campuses is shown. Then we are introduced to the female lead, whose name is Kaishi, and she is going to collect books from the South Campus. This story is being narrated by another girl named Hong, who is a student of the North Campus. The scene shifts, and we see Leihi speaking to a small child saying, "You can't leave us like this. You made a promise." Here, we are told about Leihi. He is very strong and always excels in sports. He consistently comes first and has won many medals and trophies for the school. However, he is also very mischievous. Kaishi comes to the class to collect books, but a boy tells her, "Look at the books and go back." Kaishi replies, "I am collecting all these books." Her friend Hong warns her, "Stay away from the 4 mischievous boys from the South Campus." Kaishi realizes that those boys have the books. One of those boys keeps an eye on Kaishi, but she notices him and speaks on the phone, saying, "Yes, I've collected all the books." Then she leaves. The boy quickly goes to Leihi and says, "Just now, a girl from the North Campus came and took all the books." Leihi says, "How is that possible? Our books are in the radio room." At that moment, one of Lehi's friends starts giving them details about Kaishi. He says, "Kaishi is the monitor of Class 2. She is very good at studies. Along with being intelligent, she is very beautiful, which is why she receives many love letters, but she rejects all of them." One of Leihi's friends says, "Kaishi is just a stupid machine with no emotions." Then Leihi and his friend go to the study room to check the books. There, they find that the books are still there. Now they wonder, which books did Kaishi take? Just then, Kaishi arrives there and says, "I knew you people would hide the books in the radio room, and I was just acting." She starts leaving, but Leihi stops her and says, "Who do you think you are? Do you think you can come here whenever you want?" Kaishi replies, "I am not in the mood to argue with you. I'm getting late, so let me go." Just then, one of Leihi's friends trips Kaichi as she walks away. But Leihi, seeing this, saves Kaichi. During this, the radio accidentally turns on, and the entire school hears the conversation between the 2 of them. Leihi's friend says, "Chief, why did you both hug each other?" Leihi tells him to be quiet and says to Kaishi, "What's with your arrogance? You always come second and have never come first." Kaishi replies, "What difference does it make to you about my grades? Focus on your dressing sense. You have no idea how to dress." Then she leaves. On her way, her friend Yu meets her and asks, "What were you doing in the radio room?" Kaishi, shocked, asks, "How do you know I was in the radio room?" Yu replies, "Not just me, the entire school knows. Everyone heard your conversation." Hearing this, Kaishi, shocked, goes to her classroom. On the other hand, Leihi's friends tell him, "Whatever happened, the whole school heard it through the radio. Now everyone is talking about you, saying you are weak." Leihi gets very angry upon hearing this. A flashback scene of Leihi is shown. Leihi is a football player and is selecting members for his team. At that moment, Yu comes to him and says, "I also want to play." Leihi asks, "Do you know how to run?" Yu says, "No." Leihi replies, "Then go do your homework. There's no place for you on this team." Leihi has been talented in sports since childhood, while Yu always came first in class, and everyone admired him. Because of this, Leihi was very jealous of him. Now Leihi's friends tell him, "We'll have to do something to become famous too. Maybe we should focus on studies." Leihi says, "Are you crazy? Those people are just bookworms who always keep studying. Let them come to the ground once, then watch what I do." In the next scene, North and South Campus students are shown on the ground. Leihi's friends tease him and say, "Why is Kaishi staring at you?" Leihi says, "Because I'm handsome." Now the students of North and South campuses stand on the ground, and the coach gives them instructions. Leihi says, "We will help the other campus with stretching." The coach agrees, and they all get happy about it. Leihi deliberately helps Keishi with her stretching and says, "Do it properly. You're the head of the North Campus." Hearing this, Kaishi gets very angry. After the coach leaves, the children from North and South campuses start fighting. At that moment, Kaishi says, "Let's play a match to see who is weaker." Everyone agrees to this, and Kaishi also joins her team for the match. Leihi says, "You're weak, you'll get injured, don't play." Kaishi replies, "Are you scared of me?" Then the match begins. During the match, a boy pours water on the ground, causing 2 boys from the South Campus to get out. They call the North Campus students cheaters, and a fight starts between them. At that moment, the coach arrives. The next scene shows the principal's office, where a teacher from the North Campus comes and asks Leihi, "What happened?" He says, "These people were challenging us." Kaishi says, "That's not true. so the principal asks them to apologize. In the next scene, Lehi is shown getting ready to go to school when he meets Yu. Here it is revealed that the two are neighbors. They start arguing with each other. Just then, Lehi's mom comes outside and says, "You two are best friends." In front of his mom, they both pretend as if they really are best friends. Then Yu says to his mom, "Auntie, I think you should send Lehi to a boarding school. He'll perform even better there." His mom likes this idea a lot and says, "You're absolutely right." Hearing this, Lehi gets very irritated and says, "Now we should head to school." Then they leave. After this, Yu and Lehi are shown leaving the house together on their bicycles. After going a little distance, Lehi asks him, "Why are you following me?" Yu replies, "I have no interest in following you," and changes his route. He takes the path where Keishi and her brother usually go. Then he starts circling outside Keiichi's house, waiting for her. After some time, Keishi comes outside with her brother. Seeing him, Keishi says, "What a coincidence, we've met again today." Keishi's brother says, "I don't understand how you always meet us at this time." Yu says nothing and walks away. Then Keishi's brother says, "Your choice and taste are awful." In the next scene, the principal is shown in a meeting with all the teachers saying, "There will be construction work in the North Campus for a few days, so we'll have to merge the North and South Campuses." Then the teacher comes to the classroom and announces, "Both campuses will now study together." All the students are shocked to hear this. At that moment, Keishi stands up and says, "Teacher, I am completely against this decision. This cannot happen. The two campuses are completely different. How can we stay with them?" The teacher calms the students and says, "This decision by the school is final, and we shouldn't go against it. I expect all of you to do your best." Then the teacher announces the names of the 4 South Campus students who will join their class. These students include Lehi and his 3 friends. Hearing this, the entire North Campus class is shaken. On the other hand, Lehi and his friends are also worried. They say to each other, "How can we merge with them? We are completely different from them. We can't become lazy students like them." Then Lehi says, "We'll have to do something. We need to show them who the boss is, or else they'll overpower us. We'll become weak students like them." After this, Lehi and his friends go to a convenience store and set a trap by shaking bottles. After some time, Keishi and her friends come there. When Keishi picks up a bottle and opens it, all the drink spills on her. Seeing this, Lehi and his friends start laughing. Keishi sees them and angrily says, "I won't spare you today." Just then, Hong calms her down and stops her. One of their friends, Han, says to Yu, "I don't like South Campus students at all, and I hate them." In the next scene, Lehi and his friends are shown returning from the ground and putting their clothes down before going to take a shower. At that moment, Han comes there, steals all their clothes, and runs away. When Lehi and his friends come out after showering, they see that their clothes are missing. They realize someone has stolen them and quickly start chasing Han. Then the scene shifts to the ground, where Lehi and his friends are chasing Han. Just then, the principal arrives and starts scolding them. The principal says, "Aren't you ashamed? What are you doing running around on the ground like this?" Many students gather there, including Keishi and her friend Hong. Hong, looking at Lehi, says, "Lehi is so handsome." Keishi says to Hong, "You can't see the blackboard in class, but here you can see everything." Then she closes her eyes. In the next scene, Lehi and his friends are shown. One of his friends says, "We should take revenge on them." Lehi says, "I know their head is you and I won't spare them." He then tells one of his friends to go to Keishi's class and put glue on Yu's seat. The friend goes and applies the glue. When everyone enters the class, Keishi sits on her chair and gets stuck, unable to get up. Hong tries to help her, but she can't stand up. Lehi and his friends are shocked to see this because they had put the glue on Yu's seat. Lehi gets very angry at the friend who applied the glue. Meanwhile, all the students in the class are watching Keishi. Keishi and Hong then leave for another room. Keishi cuts her skirt with scissors. Hong says, "You can't go out like this." Just then, the nurse gives Keishi a bag containing a uniform. Keishi says, "Yu is so thoughtful for sending me a new uniform." She then changes and comes out. At the same time, Lehi also comes there. Keishi looks at Lehi angrily. Lehi apologizes to her. Keishi ignores him and starts leaving. Lehi says, "You can't avoid me like this." Keishi tells him, "Stay away from me from now on." In the next scene, Lehi goes to the classroom and finds out that they have been assigned the front seats in the class. He gets very irritated and says, "We won't sit at the front." Keishi says, "I arranged all this." Lehi says, "Whatever it is, I'm not sitting at the front." Just then, the teacher and the coach enter the room. In the next scene, the teacher arranges everyone's seats herself. In the following scene, Keishi is shown going home when she notices a very cute dress, but it's very expensive. The next day, in class, Lehi and his friends are shown playing video games. Just then, Kaishi and Yu enter the class along with the teacher. The teacher tells all the students, "Your new semester has started, but we won't start a new syllabus. Instead, we will revise the previous syllabus." And then she starts teaching the class. Here we see that the academic students are paying close attention, but the sports students are getting very bored. Some are cleaning their sneakers, while others are playing with Kaishi's seat. Meanwhile, one of the friends is so sleepy that he lies down and puts a strange mask on his face to sleep. Leahy and his friends start laughing at him. The teacher walks up to him, removes his mask, and says, "Aren't you ashamed? I am teaching with so much effort, and you are sleeping. Is this what your coach has taught you?" Leahy's friend denies it. The teacher scolds him harshly and says, "This should not happen again, or else I'll punish you," and then she leaves. Meanwhile, Han is getting very irritated with Leahy and his friend's dirty sneakers. After the class ends, the teacher asks Kaishi to bring some papers from her office and says, "Some of the papers are quite heavy, so take Leahy along with you." Kaishi gets up from her seat and asks Leahy, "Will you come with me?" Leahy doesn't respond. Yu says, "I'll go with you." But Leahy says, "There's no need. I'm going with her." Outside, Leahy says, "Why are you always so serious? You should chill sometimes." Kaishi replies, "I'm not talking to you, so it's better for you not to bother me or interfere in my work." Leahy says, "And what will you do if I bother you?" Kaishi glares at him angrily and walks away. After Kaishi leaves, Leahy smiles. On the other side, Yu is shown leaving the class. Suddenly, a girl calls him from behind and accidentally falls on him. The girl says to Yu, "I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I eat healthy food and exercise too, but whenever I see you, my heartbeat starts racing." Yu says, "You must have some problem. You should get checked by a doctor," and leaves. Meanwhile, Leahy's friends, sitting nearby, are playing video games and laughing. The girl thinks they are laughing at her, so she angrily walks up to them and says, "Why are you laughing?" Leahy's friend responds, "Why? What happened? Can't we even laugh?" The girl calls them dirty sneakers and walks away. Leahy's friends get up and say, "How dare you call our sneakers dirty?" The girl picks up their sneakers and throws them in the trash. Meanwhile, Kaishi is shown carrying all the papers to the classroom by herself. Leahy approaches her, takes all the papers from her and says, "I'm not that arrogant. A gentleman always helps a girl." Kaishi looks at him in surprise and smiles. After this, they both enter the classroom and see that all the students are gathered near the trash can. Leahy walks up to his friends and asks, "Who threw these sneakers in the trash?" His friends say, "This girl threw our sneakers." Just then, Han arrives and says, "These dirty sneakers belong in the trash." Leahy gets very angry and grabs him by the collar. One of Leahy's friends says, "How would you feel if we threw your stuff into the trash?" Yu says, "End this matter here," and quickly picks up their sneakers from the trash and gives them back. Keiichi asks the girl to apologize. The girl apologizes and sits back in her seat. Keiichi also tells Leahy to apologize. Leahy says, "Why should I apologize?" Keiichi says, "You just threw the trash can down." Hearing this, his friends quickly pick up the trash can, and Leahy apologizes as well. Keiichi says to Leahy, "Give me your sneakers. I will take care of them, and no one will touch them." Hearing this, Leahy and his friends hand over their sneakers to Keiichi. After this, all the students go to the ground for their physical class. Keiichi is going to the ground with her friend and Yu when she starts having stomach pain. Her friend says, "You don't seem well. You should go and rest. Anyway, there's a math test in the next class." Yu says, "You rest, don't worry. I'll submit your leave application." But Keiichi says, "No, I'm fine." Yu says, "If your condition gets worse, you'll miss the test, and your marks will also go down." Hearing this, Keiichi agrees and goes to rest. Keiichi is resting in the classroom, and after a while, all the students return to the classroom. Just then, one of Leahy's friends notices that their sneaker box is not in its place. He asks Keiichi, "Where are our sneakers?" Leahy says, "We trusted you, and you said you'd take care of our sneakers." Keiichi says, "Believe me, I kept them right there." Leahy says, "If you don't like us, just say it straight. What's the need to play such tricks?" Keiichi says, "I'm not so stupid that I'd play tricks to take revenge on you." Just then, Han says, "She's right. Your dirty sneakers belong in the garbage. Anyway, you don't belong to this class, so why should your filthy things stay here?" One of Leahy's friends whispers something in his ear, and then he and his friends leave the classroom. Keiichi goes to Han and says, "If you do something like this again, I'll complain to the teacher." Leahy and his friends are busy searching for their sneakers. Meanwhile, Keiichi is heading toward the South Campus. Yu asks, "Where are you going?" Kaishi says, I'm sure Han has kept their sneakers in the south basement. Both of them quickly start looking for the sneakers. While searching, Kaishi hurts her hand but ignores it and resumes looking for the sneakers. In the next scene, Lehai and his friends confront Han. Lehi and his friends say to Han, you have to tell us where you've kept our sneakers. Just then, Kaishi and Yu arrive and say, Han kept your sneakers in the South Campus. Seeing the sneakers, Lehi is very happy and thanks both Kaishi and Yu. He also apologizes to Kaishi. As punishment, Kaishi tells Han to clean the sneakers. Lehi is having dinner with his friends and talking about Kaishi. He says, is our class monitor really that nice? Today, she stood up for us in front of the whole class. What do you guys think? One of his friends says, yeah, I think the monitor is quite nice. But then another friend says, I think something is fishy. Why are you praising her so much? Lehai responds, it's nothing like that. I was just asking. Then he adds, I just remembered something important. I'll be back in a while. He steps outside and sees Kaishi passing by with a boy. That boy is actually Kaishi's brother, but Lehai doesn't know this. Kaishi's brother is taking great care of her, and seeing this, Lehai is shocked and says, what's going on here? Just then, a small cute boy comes up and also says, yeah, I think something fishy is going on. Lehai says, you think so too, huh? Then Lehai takes his ice cream and starts eating it, saying, don't eat so much ice cream, and leaves from there. The next morning, Kaishi arrives at school with her brother. Lehai is there too, and notices Kaishi with the same boy again. He feels very upset seeing this. After Kaishi leaves, a girl approaches her brother and gives him a love letter saying, this is for you. Please read it, even if you decide to reject it later. Lehi sees all this and says, so he's a playboy. He's spending time with lots of girls at once. Kaishi's brother tells the girl, we're still young, so we should focus on our studies, and gives her the love letter back before leaving. Next, we see Lehai standing outside the classroom, glaring angrily at Kaishi. He enters the classroom and sits down, but he can't contain himself and goes up to Kaishi. He says, I've noticed you're not focusing on your studies these days. But Kaishi ignores him and starts enjoying herself with her friends. In the next scene, all the students are at the playground, and Hong is helping Kaishi with her exercises. Just then, Yu arrives and says, move aside, I'll help Kaishi. Lehi is watching all this and starts imagining Kaishi with her brother. Suddenly, he yells loudly, stop! Everyone stops and looks at him, shocked, while Kaishi says, what's wrong with you? Realizing it was just his imagination, Lehai nervously says, I meant to say you're doing the exercises wrong. Kaishi replies, was there a need to shout for something so small? And then she faints. In the next scene, Lehi and Yu are shown standing by Kaishi, arguing with each other. Yu says, you should leave. I'll take care of Kaishi. As they're arguing, Kaishi regains consciousness and says, I think I should leave. After Yu leaves, Lehi takes care of Kaishi and starts changing her bandage. Then he brings her a bottle of brown sugar water and says, here, drink this. You'll feel better. Kaishi asks, how do you know about this? Lehi says, when my mom used to feel unwell, my dad would give this to her. Then Lehi gives Kaishi a small apology and tells her, the guy you're dating is not good. He's dating someone else too. Kaishi tries to explain, the guy who was with me is my brother. But Lehai doesn't listen to her. Just then, Kaishi's brother arrives and says, Kaishi, are you okay? Lehi is shocked and says, he's your brother? Kaishi replies, yes, he's my brother. Understanding everything, Lehi relaxes and says, I thought you were with some bad boy. In the next scene, Kaishi and Lehi are shown going to class. Lehi says, your brother is very handsome. Kaishi, shocked, responds, first you were criticizing him and now you're praising him. Lehi says, that was before. Things are different now. Then, through the classroom window, Lehi asks Kaishi for a code, and the entire class is shocked and stares at them. At that moment, Lehi's friends come over and say to him, you're interfering too much in Kaishi's life. Lehi replies, keep your mouth shut. Then Yu approaches Kaishi and says, will you come with me to the bookstore? And she says yes. Lehai is shocked and says, I asked her for the code and she refused, but now she's going to the store with you. In the next scene, Kaishi and her friend are shown in the library. Her friend hands her a horror book and says, read this, it's a good book. On the other hand, Lehai's friend says, you directly told Kaishi to give you the code. Then Lehai's friend says, and she refused to give it to you. That's very shameless. You did the same thing to a girl once. Meanwhile, Kaishi tells Hong, I don't want to read this book. So Kaishi's friend says, now why won't you read the book? You're busy chatting, right? Hearing this, Kaishi says to her friend, what do you mean by that? Her friend responds, why did you give your ID to Lehi? Kaishi says, I didn't give him my ID. On the other hand, Lehi says to his friend, why did she refuse to give me her ID? Then his friend says, I can gather information about Kaishi for you. I'm an expert at this. He then goes to Hong. They talk a lot, and during the conversation he finds out everything about Kaishi and is very happy. That night, the friend calls Lei and says, "Boss, your work is done." Lei says, "Now I understand how Kaishi agreed to go with you without me because she loves reading books." In the next scene, Kaishi goes to the library with you and asks the owner, "Has the book we ordered arrived?" Just then, Lei comes and says, "Wow, this book is amazing." He gives the book to Kaishi and says, "I bought this book because you didn't pay for it," and tells her, "This book is very interesting. Don't worry, the next copy will arrive in 15 days. Hearing this, Yu says, "We'll order the book ourselves," and calls someone. After talking on the phone, he tells Kaishi, "Don't worry, I've spoken to them and we'll get this book soon." Then Lei says, "You can read this book," but Kaishi leaves from there. Afterward, the bookstore owner comes to Lei and says, "Can I give this book to someone else now?" Lei replies, "Absolutely not." On the other hand, Kaishi thanks Yu for the books. Yu says to Kaishi, "Your hair has grown long and you're looking really cute. Don't cut it." Kaishi replies, "Alright, I won't cut it." Just then, Kaishi gets a message from her teacher. "Come to the office and meet me." When Kaishi goes to the teacher says, "Ever since the South Campus and North Campus merged, our head has been monitoring us. They want to check if the students from both campuses are studying well. That's why I've created groups." When Kaishi checks, her name is paired with Lei. She says, "Teacher, I can't work with Lehigh." The teacher replies, "He's excellent in sports, and you're excellent in academics, which is why I paired you both in the same group." She tells her friend Hong everything, and her friend gives her an idea. The next day, when everyone is sitting in the chemistry lab, Keishi asks Lei a question, which he is unable to answer. Keishi then says, "Get out of my group." Lei says to Kaishi, "What do you think of me? I'll solve this question and prove it to you, no matter what." Just then, the teacher calls Kaishi and tells her to go to the storeroom to get some supplies. Kaishi signals to her friend, and she goes outside and tells Lei, "I have to get some things from the storeroom. Come with me." At first, Lei is surprised to hear this, but then he agrees to go. As soon as they enter the storeroom, it's very dark. Seeing the darkness, Lei gets very scared. Suddenly, a spider appears above, and he gets extremely frightened, trying to protect both himself and Kaishi. Then, a ghost appears, which turns out to be Hong. Lei says, "What nonsense is this?" Kaishi says, "Yes, this was our plan, but I had to do this because you're terrible at studying, and I don't want my studies to suffer because of you." Hearing this, Lei gets angry and says to Kaishi, "What do you think of me? I'm the head of my group, and now watch. I'll prove to you what my personality is." In the next scene, Lei and Kaishi are in the classroom, where Lei recites an equation from memory. Hearing this, Kaishi is shocked and highly impressed. Kaishi then gives him her WeChat ID and says, "You can add me." Seeing this, Lei is very surprised, and his friends are equally shocked. Then Lei adds her. Lei receives a friend request. Seeing this, Hong says, "You refused to give your ID before, so why are you accepting his request now?" Kaishi tells her friend, "Because we are in the same group, I need to help him. If he doesn't study, it might affect my marks." In the next scene, Lei is on his bed. He types a message to Kaishi but deletes it. Just then, he receives a message from Kaishi that says, "Hi." Seeing this message, Lei becomes very happy and replies with "Hi." The scene shifts to Kaishi, who is looking at a picture of her childhood friend and thinking, what must he look like now? Where must he be? And in what condition? On the other side, Lei is shown eating his food quickly. When asked by his parents why he is eating so fast, he says, "I have to study." Kaishi sends a picture of a book and says, "You must read this book. It will help you a lot." Seeing this message, Lei becomes very excited. In the next scene, Lei is having dinner with his parents. His mother asks, "Who messaged you and why are you so nervous?" And he says, "No, it's nothing like that." Then his mother asks, "Why were you eating so quickly?" He replies, "My class monitor gave me some notes and I don't want to miss them." Hearing this, his mother and father become very happy. The next day, Kaishi and Lei are conducting an experiment in the chemistry lab. Lei tells Kaishi, "This book is very interesting." Kaishi replies, "You should thank Yu because he gave me this book." Yu says, "I hope it will help you." Then Lei mistakenly sets fire to the lab by lighting the wrong chemical. Everyone helps each other and escapes. Meanwhile, Kaishi faints there. Lei searches for Kaishi everywhere but cannot find her, so he goes back into the lab and rescues her. When Kaishi regains consciousness and sees Lei's injury, she bandages him and says, "I used to think very badly of you, but today I felt good seeing you help everyone." Then Lei says, "I also used to think badly of you. Then they both become friends. Back in the classroom, the teacher asks everyone how they are. Meanwhile, the principal arrives, explains the safety rules, and says, "I was pleased to see you all helping each other today." Then everyone claps. In the next scene, Kaishi sprains her ankle. Then Yu helps her. Leahy doesn't like this. Then Kaishi's brother arrives and takes her home. The next day, Kaishi is shopping for something. Then Hong says to her, "You've changed. You used to be rude, and now you smile all the time." Kaishi says, "It's nothing like that." In the next scene, Kaishi asks her brother, "Where are you going?" He replies, "For group study." Just then, her friend arrives and says, "I need your card. I have to get some books." So she gives her the card. The next day, the teacher asks Leahy to read something, but he cannot read it properly, and everyone laughs at him. At the teacher's prompting, Yu reads it very well and says, "It wasn't that difficult." After the class ends, Kaishi asks the girl for her card, but the girl says it might have fallen in the trash bin. So she goes there. Yu follows her and says, "It's not that important." Kaishi replies, "It's important to me because Leahy gave it to me." Just then, Leahy arrives and sees the two of them together, feeling very jealous. He asks Kaishi, "What are you doing here?" She replies, "I'm looking for the card you gave me." Leahy says, "You lost it?" So Kaishi says, "I gave it to someone." Leahy says, "How could you do that?" Then he scolds her further and takes her away from there. After they leave, Yu finds the bag with the card. He keeps the card with him and leaves. On the other side, Kaishi pulls Leahy's hair and he lets her go. Then she tells him, "I went there just to find the card and you only came to help me." Leahy asks, "Is that the truth?" She says, "Yes." Leahy believes her, and then Kaishi goes home. The next day, Kaishi tells her friend, "I know you didn't do all this on purpose, but if you take someone's things, take care of them." Her friend says sorry and leaves. Then Yu comes and gives her the card. She becomes happy and thanks him. Seeing all this, Leahy feels jealous. He sits behind Kaishi and taps her head, then asks, "What was Yu saying to you?" Kaishi replies, "He was returning my card." Then they start arguing, and Leahy pulls her chair backward. In class, the principal arrives and says, "I am giving all of you a punishment for tomorrow. All the sports students will write all the rules of the chemistry lab, and all the academic students will participate in sports." Hearing this, everyone is shocked. In the next scene, Leahy is practicing his pronunciation and memorizing the ABCD when his competitor Hei comes and says, "This time I will win." Leahy and Hei place a bet and decide on a punishment for the loser. After Hei leaves, Leahy's friend asks him, "Will you win?" Leahy says, "I will keep my promise." The next day, the sports event takes place, and everyone is very happy. Then a member of Leahy's team betrays them and disappears from the event. Shortly before the race starts, Leahy learns that a girl is missing, so Kaishi plays in her place but falls during the race. Leahy helps her, but Kaishi says, "Go finish your race." Leahy runs but is unable to win, which makes him very upset. In the next scene, we see Kaishi and Hong at the clinic, where they see their classmate and get very angry, saying, "You should have at least told us." The girl apologizes to the entire class. Leahy says, "You should have told us earlier. After all, we are classmates." Hearing this, the girl starts crying. In the next scene, Kaishi is chatting in her group when someone shares a picture of Leahy and Kaishi together and says, "They look so good together." Seeing this message, Leahy becomes very excited and Yu becomes very sad. The next day at school, all the students are running somewhere. Kaishi asks, "Where is everyone going?" Someone says, "I don't know," and they both go there. They see Leahy wearing a tortoise costume because that was his punishment for losing the bet. Everyone takes his picture and makes fun of him. Just then, his friends arrive and stand by his side. Then they take pictures together. Hei says to them, "I am proud of all of you." Just then, Hong comes there and takes him to the canteen, where everyone has brought food, and they all say, "We are with you. You are the pride of our class." Leahy feels very happy. Then all the students go to Hei and place the food in front of him. Seeing this, Hei feels very embarrassed. In the next scene, Hong tells Kaishi, "There are so many comments on your and Leahy's picture. Everyone is talking about you too." Just then, Leahy comes there, and they go for dinner. Kaishi keeps smiling repeatedly, so Leahy says, "Why are you smiling?" She replies, "Thanks for leaving the race and helping me." Leahy says to her, "You are important to me." Kaishi says, "Now stop talking and order the food." The next day, everyone has their exam. Then Kaishi hands them their mark sheets and leaves. When Leahy sees his marks, he becomes sad. His friend scored 92 marks and says, "I only focused on the basics." When Leahy goes home, he shows Chuan's mark sheet to his parents instead of his own. His parents feel very happy. Later, when he tells them, "This is not my mark sheet," and shows his own, his parents become hyper. He says, I am a sports student. Lei-hee feels very disappointed and leaves. The next day, he plans to cheat, but Kaishi foils his plan. Lei-hee says, I genuinely want to pass. Then she tells Yu, we need to help Lei-hee. This time, he wants to study. Yu says, I am ready to help Lei-hee. Meanwhile, we see Lei-hee, whom Hei informs, a new coach has come to the neighboring campus. Today we will go to him. Just then, Lei-hee receives Kaichi's message saying, come to study on time. He agrees. Later, when they secretly watch the coach's training, they are shocked. The coach notices them and joins them, and they all watch the training together. On the other side, Kaishi has been waiting for Lei-hee for a long time and is getting very angry. Lei-hee doesn't realize the time and asks his friend, what time is it? They tell him, the class must have ended by now. The coach says, did you guys skip class to come here? Go and attend your class. Then all four of them leave. When Lei-hee comes to class, Kaishi doesn't talk to him properly. After class ends, she starts to leave. Lei-hee grabs her bag and asks, what's wrong with you? Kaishi is very angry with him and doesn't respond, leaving the room. Hong asks her, why are you angry? She replies, I am not angry at all. On the other side, Lei-hee asks Yu, why is Kaishi angry with me? Yu says, you should ask yourself that. At home, Lei-hee tries to message her but deletes it. On the other side, Kaishi is also disturbed. The next day in class, Lei-hee is waiting for Kaishi. When she arrives, he says, help me solve this problem. She doesn't respond. Then Lei-hee apologizes to her for the previous day. Kaishi tells him, you didn't come to class. For you, sports are more important. He says, I didn't go to play. I went to see the new coach. She believes him and starts helping him with his studies. In the next scene, Kaishi and Yu are teaching all the students. Then Lei-hee asks Kaishi, how was my performance? She replies, it was good. If you keep working like this, you will definitely pass. Then Lei-hee asks Kaishi to go for dinner with him. Kaishi says, I will be going to the library today. Lei-hee says, all right, we will go next time. In the next scene, Yu and Kaishi are studying and chatting together. Meanwhile, Lei-hee's friend gives him a tip on how to get closer to Kaishi. Chuan says, start ignoring Kaishi and she will get attached to you. Then Lei-hee begins ignoring Kaishi. Later, while practicing on the ground, Lei-hee instructs everyone and he tells Kaishi to work harder. Yu asks, why are you talking to her like that? Lei-hee says to Yu, come and demonstrate the stretching to everyone. Meanwhile, Hong asks Chuan, why has your friend become so rude? Chuan explains the entire plan to her. On the other side, Hong informs Kaishi about the plan and says, he is playing a game with you. Kaishi replies, I am smarter than him. When Lei-hee comes to show Kaishi his homework, she starts ignoring him. Lei-hee looks at Chuan in shock. Then the principal summons them to his office. When they arrive, Hei is already there and is getting scolded. Lei-hee realizes who was behind everything. In the next scene, Lei-hee apologizes to Kaishi for her help and asks, where did you get the evidence to prove we were innocent? She explains everything to him. In the following scene, Kaishi is looking at Lei-hee's pictures and likes them, which makes Lei-hee very happy. He says, I have a basketball match tomorrow. Make sure you come to watch. And no excuses this time. Kaishi agrees. The next day, while everyone is training for basketball, Kaishi arrives and asks Lei-hee, will you teach me basketball? He starts teaching her, and they spend a good time together. Later, they go out somewhere, and a handsome star steps out of a car. Kaishi says, maybe that's Jinxie. Lei-hee asks, who is he? Kaishi says, Hong tells me about him. She is a fan of his. Meanwhile, Jinxie tells the director, I am here to find my childhood friend. On the other side, Kaishi is doing her homework. A flashback shows Kaishi celebrating her birthday with her friend. Suddenly, a fire breaks out, and Kaishi gets very scared. She says, why am I missing my friend so much today? On the other side, everyone at school is talking about Jinxie. Suddenly, Jinxie arrives and says, I don't need to introduce myself, but I'll tell you my name. He then tells Kaishi, your seat is at the back. After class, all the girls ask Jinxie for his autograph, which surprises Lei-hee and Kaishi. Later, when Kaishi steps outside, Jinxie approaches her, but many girls surround him for autographs. Jinxie grabs Kaishi's hand and takes her away. Seeing this, Yu and Lei-hee become very angry. Jinxie and Kaishi hide in a room, and Jinxie covers her mouth with his hand. Kaishi angrily looks at him and asks, why did you bring me here? Jinxie starts reminding her of their childhood memories. Kaishi asks, are you trying to say that you are my childhood friend? Then Jinxie gives her a candy, and seeing it, she becomes very happy and says, I can't believe you are here in front of me. They spend a lot of time together. On the other side, Lei-hee is waiting for Kaishi. When Kaishi arrives, he asks, where were you? She says, I was with Jinxie, he is my childhood friend. Then Leahy and his friends look at Jinxie's pictures and say, he is a famous actor. Leahy walks away, then Hong is shown taking Jinxie's autograph, but Chuan pulls her away. In the next scene, Leahy asks Chuan, what's happening? Chuan replies, everyone is crazy about Jinxie, they're all taking his autograph. Meanwhile, we see Kaishi, and Yu asks her about Jinxie, so she tells him everything. On the other side, Leahy goes to get drinks, where he also sees a crowd of girls. Leahy is surprised. Then Jinxie and Kaishi enter the canteen. Jinxie gives autographs to everyone and asks them to leave, then sits next to Kaishi. Leahy gets very angry and leaves without eating. On the other side, Yu gets all the information from Kaishi's brother. Later, everyone is studying in class. Hong keeps looking at Jinxie, and just then the principal arrives. He goes to Jinxie and says, you should wear the school uniform in school, and adds, you cannot roam around the school holding the monitor's hand. Leahy feels very happy that Jinxie is being scolded. The principal also tells Kaishi, you should be more careful. Kaishi angrily looks at Leahy, and he leaves, making an excuse about a match. In the next scene, Leahy tells Yu, we should work together, or Jinxie will surpass us. Yu replies, I don't want to work with you. Leahy says, do you want Kaishi to spend all her time with Jinxie? Yu responds, all right, I'm ready to work with you, but you'll have to do what I say. Then we see Leahy practicing basketball. Kaishi and Jinxie are also there. Leahy challenges Jinxie to play basketball and defeats him badly. Next, Yu gives Jinxie some notes and says, these will help you in the exam. Just then, Kaishi arrives and tells Jinxie, I'm going home. Jinxie says, wait, I'll drop you. But Leahy and Yu stop him and say, we need to discuss something important about the notes with Jinxie. The next day, Kaishi asks Leahy to help Jinxie, but he refuses outright. However, Yu says, I am ready to help you. Leahy says, have you gone mad? Then Kaishi tells Leahy, I need your help with Jinxie's fitness, and Yu's help with exams. Both of them agree. In the next scene, Leahy learns that there's a function at school tomorrow and no one will wear uniforms. He asks Chuan about what to wear. Chuan says, wear the same outfit Kaishi will wear. Leahy then calls Kaishi's brother to ask about the color of her outfit. He tells him she'll wear a blue jacket and jeans. Leahy wears the same outfit. In the following scene, everyone is at Jinxie's house. But Leahy and Yu tease Jinxie a lot, which makes him very angry. Jinxie tells Kaishi, I don't need their help. Kaishi replies, they are here to help you. You have an audition, so recite your lines. Jinxie is unable to remember anything. Then Yu recites all the lines for him, leaving Jinxie surprised. Yu says, I'll help you. In the next scene, they both help Jinxie practice so he can get stronger. They work hard on him and realize that Jinxie's stamina has slightly improved. In the next scene, everyone is heading home. Kaishi says, your house is behind. They reply, we forgot. She says, don't lie, and then she goes to her house. Meanwhile, Jinxie and Kaishi are working. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door and Jinxie's agent is there. Kaishi tells him to open the door, but Jinxie refuses. The agent leaves, and Jinxie relaxes a bit. The door is knocked again, and this time, Kaishi opens it. Leahy and Yu are there, and they try to help Jinxie improve until late at night. The next day, the results are out. Leahy has topped in English, and he becomes very happy. Jinxie shows his result to Kaishi. She says, your marks are very good. Jinxie invites her to dinner. Yu and Leahy also say, we'll come too. The next day, they are all eating pizza, which turns out to be spoiled. Jinxie and Kaishi end up at the hospital, where Leahy is with Kaishi and Jinxie's agent is with him. They have long conversations with them. Later, the agent calls all three of them and says, I'm glad that Jinxie has such good friends like you. After that, Leahy and Yu go to check on Jinxie, where they see a nurse giving him an injection. Seeing this, both of them feel very happy. In the next scene, Leahy and Yu are with Jinxie. Jinxie says, I know you both are helping me just to stay close to Kaishi. Leahy says to him, what are you trying to say? Get to the point. Jinxie directly says, I really like Kaishi. Hearing this, Yu says, so do I. Leahy responds to both of them saying, well, I love her. Jinxie says, I'm her childhood friend. Yu says, I'm her classmate and have always helped her with her studies. Hearing this, Leahy says, that's nothing, I've even hugged her. Hearing this, both of them get very angry and start beating Leahy. Leahy says, I'm not in the mood to fight. Just then, Kaishi arrives. And as soon as she does, the three of them suddenly become very nice and start asking about each other's well-being. In the next scene, Yu's mother asks him why he came home late. He says, I was with my friends. His mother gets very angry and says, I want you to become a lawyer, and this is very important for you. I don't want you to waste your time with friends. Yu says, I want to live my life on my own terms. Yu becomes very upset because of his mother and forges her signature on his exam sheet. In the next scene, the teacher gives all the students a form to apply for university admissions. She says, this form is very important for your future. Then we see Keishi and Hong talking about their future university plans. Chuan asks Leihi, which university do you want to apply to? Leihi doesn't respond. Chuan says, you promised me that we'd go to the same university, so don't break your promise. Hearing this, Leihi says, don't worry, I won't do anything like that. Next, we see Yu looking at the application form and feeling very upset. Meanwhile, Jinxie gets discharged from the hospital and returns home. As soon as he reaches home, the three of them visit him and ask about his well-being. Yu says, I brought notes for you, which will help you in your studies. Jinxie asks Kaishi, which university have you thought of applying to? She says, I'm thinking of applying to Bai University. Yu says, I haven't thought much about it yet. Jinxie then asks Leihi the same question. Leihi says, I haven't thought about it, but I'll probably go to a sports university. In the next scene, the three of them are waiting for their results. Jinxie arrives and they ask him, how was your audition? Jinxie says, it went well. They then ask about the results, and Jinxie says, my audition was great, but I didn't get selected because there were many actors, and the competition was tough. Hearing this, Leihi says, don't be sad. We should focus on the future rather than the past. And anyway, our exams are next week. The four of us should help each other and pass the exams with good marks. They all agree to group study and feel very happy about it. In the next scene, we see Jinxie with Miss Hua, who is very angry with him because he failed the audition. Jinxie says, I don't like acting at all. I want to become a musician. Miss Hua says, you need to prove your interest in studies and score good marks. The criteria are 60% marks. Jinxie says, this time, I'll work hard and score well. In the following scene, Jinxie tells Kaishi, I'm taking 2 weeks off from school, which surprises the three of them. Jinxie then says that he is going to take music classes because music is his passion. They all agree. In the next scene, the coach and teacher review Leihi's application form and are surprised. They talk to him, but Yu and Leihi convince their teachers. Then Chuan gets upset with Leihi and says, Chief, you're breaking your promise. He then walks away. Later, Yu's mother finds out the truth that Yu forged her signature on the form. She gets very angry, and Yu leaves the house and goes to Jinxie's house. His mother refuses to listen to anything. In the next scene, the three of them are talking on a video call, and Leihi says to the other two, Yu's mother wants to transfer him to another school. Hearing this, both of them are very shocked. Kaishi says to them, our exam is tomorrow, and there is also a very big programming competition. Leihi says to both of them, the three of us need to work together to stop his mother from doing this. The next day, all the students have their exams. Meanwhile, Yu's mother arrives at the school. The three of them notice Yu's mother, and Leihi tells Kaishi and Jinxie, I'm taking Yu to his competition. You both go and try to convince his mother and stop her from coming here. Kaishi and Jinxie try to stop Yu's mother and talk to her. At that moment, their class teacher arrives and tells the mother, this time is very important for him. If you transfer him, it will have a significant impact on his studies. On the other side, Leihi heads to the competition. Kaishi tells Yu's mother, Yu loves coding. You should support him and come with us to watch his competition. Meanwhile, the programming competition is underway, and Yu is performing very well. Just then, Kaishi brings Yu's mother to the competition. As soon as Yu sees his mother, she looks at him and walks away. He becomes a little upset. In the next scene, Yu's mother tells him, this time you've participated in the competition, but if you do something like this again, I will transfer you to another school. The next day, Yu is very disturbed at school. Their class teacher tells all the students, your exam results have been released and you can check your results online. Then she says to Yu, come to the staff room and meet me. We then see Yu in the staff room. The teacher tells Yu, your papers were very poor and you've secured second position instead of first. You love coding, but you need to focus on your studies. Yu understands her words well, thanks her, and leaves. His friends ask him about it, and he tells them that Miss Yu had called him to inform him about his results. He congratulates Kaishi because she has secured the first position. He says, I came second this time. Hearing this, Kaishi is also very surprised. Leihi says, tomorrow is our spring holiday, so we'll all go shopping. Hearing this, everyone becomes very happy. The next day, they all go shopping together and enjoy their holiday. Later, they're in a cafe, placing their drink orders. Leihi says, I'll have the drink that Kaishi orders for me. Hearing this, everyone looks at Leihi. As Kaishi goes to place the order, Yu approaches her and says, I've been selected for the final round of the coding competition. Hearing this, She becomes very happy and wishes him the best of luck. Then we see the troublemaker Han, who is talking to someone and planning something big. What he is planning will be revealed later. In the next scene, the coach is training Lei Hai and his friends and tells them, take a 5-minute break. Hong messages Chuan saying, Jingxi and I are at Kaishi's house. Chuan shows the message to Lei Hai and tells him Jingxi is currently at Kaishi's house and is taking tuition from her. Hearing this, Lei Hai runs off and heads straight to his house. His parents ask him, where are you going? He replies, I'm going to a friend's house for group study. As he steps outside, Yu asks, where are you going? Lei Hai replies, I'm going out to eat with my friends. Yu says, you're lying, you're going to study. Then he goes to Keishi's house and teases Jingxi a lot. When they get hungry, they grab something to eat. Then they all return home, and Lei Hai and Jingxi prepare food. Kaishi tastes the food and says, Lei Hai's cooking is delicious. Hearing this, Jingxi feels sad and Lei Hai becomes very happy. The next day, many reporters are outside Kaishi's house. When she checks social media, she sees that someone has made a photo of Jingxi and her go viral. She becomes very upset. Jingxi calls her and tells her to stay at home. Then Lei Hai arrives and takes both of them to his house. There, they try to figure out who did all this. Then it is revealed that Han was behind everything. On the other side, Jingxi's agent scolds him a lot. In the next scene, we see them trying to find out who was behind all this. Just then, Kaishi receives a call from the manager, who tells her, Jingxi is going to your house. The three of them go there, and the reporters spot them and attack them, causing injuries. Lei Hai treats Kaishi well, which makes her feel very happy. After this, Kaishi tells Lei Hai, it's very late, we should sleep now. As Lei Hai tries to go to her room, Kaishi says, you will sleep in my brother's room, not mine. When Kaishi goes to her room, she finds Lei Hai and her brother already there, saying, we are your bodyguards, so we will protect you and sleep here. However, Kaishi sends both of them outside and locks the door. Lei Hai tells her brother, no problem, we can protect Kaishi even from outside. The next day, Jingxi does a live stream and apologizes for everything that happened. Everyone is watching his live stream. Lei Hai says, an actor's life is very tough. Then Yu calls them and says, I have found out who is behind all this. It's not just Han. Someone else is involved too. The three of them go to meet the stranger and say, you will have to delete all these photos, or we will file a case. On the other hand, Jingxi tells Han, you have done something very wrong. Han apologizes to him. In the next scene, Han's parents scold him a lot and say, we are transferring you to another school. Han starts crying. In the following scene, Kaishi is cooking. Everyone is shocked to see her cooking. When she finishes, she says, eat. Looking at the food, they say, we are not hungry. Then they ask Kaishi to taste the food. When she tastes it, she says, this is terrible. After that, they order food from outside. In the next scene, the class teacher says, you have 6 months left for your inter-college exams, and this time is important, so work hard. Later that night, Kaishi is studying when she notices Lei Hai has come over. They both go to a park, where Kaishi receives a surprise that makes her very happy. They spend a good time there together. In the next scene, Jingxi is about to perform a concert and invites everyone. While everyone is preparing to go, Yu's mother forbids him from going. Yu becomes very upset. Then we are shown the concert, where Jingxi sings a romantic song for Kaishi, and everyone enjoys it a lot. On the other side, Lei Hai goes to the concert after training. When he arrives, he asks for Kaishi. Just then, Kaishi arrives. Lei Hai asks her, what were you doing with Jingxi? She replies, he is returning abroad. Everyone is shocked to hear this. Then, Lei Hai takes Kaishi to her house and says, promise me, you won't leave me. Then he says goodbye and leaves. In the next scene, everyone goes to meet Jingxi because he is leaving. After that, they are shown exercising. Hong tells Kaishi, I will miss Jingxi a lot. As they are about to leave, Kaishi feels dizzy. Yu picks her up and takes her away. When she regains consciousness, she asks, how did I get here? Hong tells her everything. When Lei Hai finds out about this, he also checks on her and says, from now on, send me a picture of whatever you eat. You've become very weak. That night, she sends him a picture of her food. In the next scene, Lei Hai is outside Kaishi's house and asks her to go out with him. She says, I don't want to go. However, she feels very happy and gets ready immediately. When she steps out, Lei Hai can't stop staring at her. He compliments her, and Kaishi feels very happy. They eat together, play games, and fully enjoy their time. Then, they go to watch a horror movie, and Lei Hai thinks Kaishi will get scared, but he ends up being the one terrified. In the next scene, Yu goes to wish Lei Hai a happy birthday. but Leihi's mother says he is at school. Hearing this, Yu is shocked and leaves. In the next scene, the two of them train together and enjoy their time a lot. Then Yu goes to the classroom but finds no one there. In another room, he sees Leihi and Kaishi together and becomes very upset. After that, Leihi drops Kaishi off at her house and invites her to his upcoming match. When he gets home, his parents celebrate his birthday, and everyone enjoys it a lot. Later, he takes cake to Yu, but Yu says, "I don't want it," and shuts the door. Leihi cannot understand what happened to him. The next day, Leihi tells Kaishi, "Today we will go out for dinner." She replies, "I have to study," and leaves. Then he tries to talk to Yu, but Yu ignores him and walks away. Leihi wonders, what has happened to both of them? Next, we see that it is Keishi's dad's birthday, and she misses him a lot. Leihi already knows from Yu that it is her dad's birthday, and that she is very sad. Hearing this, Leihi also feels bad. The following day, Keishi visits a doctor and tells him, "I don't feel hungry and my dad had blood cancer." The doctor suggests, "You should get a checkup." Keishi becomes a bit sad. The next scene takes place in the library where Keishi is picking up a book and Yu helps her. It turns out to be a book about blood cancer. Keishi tells Yu everything, and he advises her to go to the hospital for a checkup. When they come outside, Leihi is waiting for Keishi and drops her off at her house. In the next scene, Leihi says to Keishi, "Today I came to pick you up, but you left with Yu." She replies, "I had some work, and I'll tell you at the right time." Leihi says, "Okay." She then goes to the classroom. When Hong calls her, she does not go with her. Yu approaches her and says, "You need to tell all of this to your mom." Kaishi starts crying. In the next scene, Kaishi gathers the courage to tell everything to her mom. Hearing this, her mom becomes worried and says, "You need to get checked by a doctor." That night, Lehigh keeps thinking about Kaishi and messages her saying, "I have a match. Will you come to watch?" Kaishi replies, "No, I can't come." Leihi becomes very upset. The next morning, Kaishi's mom prepares her favorite dishes and says, "Today, we will all go to the doctor." Meanwhile, Leihi is racing and falls, injuring his leg. Chuan tells Hong about this but asks her not to tell anyone else. When Kaishi finds out, she wants to go to Leihi, but Hong stops her and says, "Don't go now." In the next scene, we see Kaishi and her mom getting her checkup done, and the doctor recommends some tests. Later, the doctor suggests Kaishi undergo therapy. That night, while studying, Yu sends her the day's notes. She thanks him and feels very happy. In the following scene, Yu's dad tells him to stay away from Lehigh so that he can focus on his studies. Meanwhile, Kaishi is sad in her room. Her brother comes in and says, "If you miss Leihi a lot and want to go to him, then you should definitely go." Next, we see Leihi, whose race has already started, and he is performing very well. On the other hand, Keishi is on her way to watch Leihi's race, but faints on the way. Leihi is also thinking about Keishi and ends up losing the race, leaving everyone upset. Meanwhile, Yu finds out that Keishi has fainted and takes her to the hospital, taking care of her. We then see Leihi, whose parents are happy, assuming he won the race. However, when he tells them, "I lost," they all feel sad, and Leihi sits alone in his room, feeling down. In the next scene, Kaishi and everyone are watching the video of Leihi's race. Seeing him lose makes Kaishi very upset. Hong says, "If you had come, he would have won." Kaishi's brother explains, "She was on her way, but she fainted." Hong is shocked and says, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" Yu says, "We should leave all of this and focus on our upcoming exams." The next scene shows Yu's house, where his parents scold him a lot because he wants to study coding instead of law. Yu's mother tells him, "I will transfer you to another school." Hearing this, Yu becomes sad and sits in his room, feeling very down. In the following scene, we see Kaishi, where Yu asks her, "When are your test results coming?" She replies, "They are coming tomorrow," and she appears nervous. Next, we see Leihi and his dad, who tells him to race. Leihi says, "I don't feel like racing at all." His dad responds, "A person learns to win only after losing, and only those who win after losing are called true champions." Hearing this, Leihi becomes very motivated and starts racing. In the next scene, Yu takes Kaichi home. At that moment, Leihi arrives and Yu says, "I think you two should talk," and leaves. Leihi tells Kaichi, "If you don't want to tell me, don't tell me. But I already said I will stand by you in every situation and you can trust me." He starts to leave, but Keiichi stops him and says, "I need to tell you something." She then tells him everything. Leihi tells Keiichi's brother, "You should have told me everything." Then Leihi says to her, "From now on, don't hide anything from me and tell me everything." Keiichi apologizes, saying he lost the race because of her, but Leihi tells her, "It's okay." Keiichi feels very sad, but Leihi consoles her, and they reconcile. In the next scene, Yu goes to Kaishi's house, and the two go out together. They see new technologies and enjoy themselves a lot. When Leihi comes to meet Kaishi, her brother tells him she has gone out with Yu. Then the scene shifts to the hospital, where the doctor says, Kaishi does not have blood cancer. Everyone becomes very happy upon hearing this. In the next scene, Kaishi goes to the classroom, looking very happy. She tells everything to Hong, and both of them feel very happy and hug each other. Later, they all go out for dinner at night. Everyone is thrilled because Kaishi does not have blood cancer. The doctor had explained, her signs and symptoms resembled those of blood cancer, but she got treatment at the right time and is now completely safe, which makes them all very happy. However, Yu does not join them because his mother wants to transfer him to another school. He ignores Kaishi's messages and does not meet her. The next day, Yu goes to school with his parents. It is his last day at that school. Kaishi and everyone else arrive there because Kaishi found out the previous night that Yu's mother was planning to transfer him. Everyone is present there. Their teacher explains, changing Yu's school will negatively impact his studies. It's not a good decision. Please don't transfer him. He is a very talented student. Keishi also tries to convince Yu's mother. However, his mother refuses to agree. Everyone tries their best, but his parents remain adamant. As they start to take Yu away, he refuses to go with them and says, Mom and Dad, I want to study at this school. I can't leave this school. His parents think for a while and then agree. Because of everyone's efforts, Yu's mother changes her mind and decides not to transfer him. Everyone becomes very happy, and Yu feels delighted as well. The next day, everyone is preparing for their exams. They take their exams, and after the exams are over, they click pictures together. We see Leihai and Kaishi in a room where they are kissing each other. This is where the drama ends with a happy ending. How much rating would you give this drama, and which was your favorite scene? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos.